Okay, so I was just about to say that Tom always asks me to post the meeting. If I haven't already done it, he'll ask me a week ahead of this meeting, and it's clear that he wants to go through the recording for the minutes, so I'm sure that's what he'll do this time. I failed to start the recording, so just to recap, we recognized a new guest. Please repeat your name because I have a horrible memory.
Rob Heike.
Okay, and we admitted new to the club because it's his third meeting, John Jones and Joseph Finklin, who's with us online. And we also recognize two other guests. Please repeat your names.
Al Sutton. Kevin Rebrun.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. And then we asked about additions or corrections to the minutes. And then I remembered we had a picnic last month. There weren't any minutes to take. And now we're on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, I'll just get up in front of the camera here. How this works.
You might need to back up some or have a seat.
All right, maybe that's the thing it is. Have a seat. Okay, the treasurer's report. This one is for 3 months since we hadn't met in person for the last 2 months. And so what we started the month, well, I guess this was August the 1st, with $4,717.36. We collected $146 in dues. The auction generated $1,578. And then we had a Zoom reimbursement from the Ship Model Society in New Jersey and the Philadelphia Ship Model Society of $100. Total receipts for the quarter here, the 3 months, was $1,824. Disbursements, we had $50.05 for the picnic. We made a $200 contribution to the Norwich Hall for the auction. And then we paid for the annual Zoom fee of $157.40. Total disbursements were $407.45, leaving us a balance in the account of $6,133.91. We still have one member that still owes dues. Our membership is 42 regular members, 6 associate members, 1 honorary member. Plus, we just added 2 more. So really we've got 44 regular members. And then 4 members were dropped for non-payment of dues. So
Okay,
that's where we stand.
thank you. That brings it to me, the webmaster, for his report, and he's got nothing to report. Nothing's changed on the website in the last month or two. Old business. I had a very busy yesterday and the day before and morning today, so I didn't go through any of the old minutes or newsletters or whatever to refresh my memory. So I'm going to ask for you guys to help me out. Is there any old business on the table? I don't recall any. All right, we'll move on to new business. Oh, it's gonna be a short meeting. I've got one. No one else is going to speak up. I very much enjoyed our sortie up to the Philadelphia Model Con on the New Jersey. And when I was there, I noticed the deck is in spots in horrible condition, and they're in the process of redoing it. And there's they're doing fundraising, of course, to support that. So I'd like to make a motion that the club support $100, make a donation of $100 in support of the redecking of the New Jersey.
Probably buy one today.
Yeah, it all adds up. You can, okay, no seconds? Oh, okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right. Boy, when I didn't hear a second, I thought that was going to go over like a lead balloon.
That's more of a gesture than it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, heck, you can ship a sink 1 pebble at a time. I mean, we're just 1 pebble. We're not rich enough to do it all for them. Any other new business?
Well, we just came back from the Northeast Conference up in Connecticut,
Mhm.
and that was a nice show. is there any interest in us trying to get involved in something of that nature? Either regionally, locally, or joining another established group?
So when you say of that nature, you mean a joint meeting or just having an exhibit in
Well,
general?
Either or both. I mean, it seems like we don't really do a whole lot
So,
in that regard.
yeah, so that was my thought when I became skipper a year and a half ago. And that of all the things I could think of to quote, do as a skipper would be to try and organize another exhibit because it's been a while. And COVID pretty much started with my first term or whatever. So we had to shelve any thought of doing that, but even with the variants, we're getting to the point where we can consider something like that again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the venue would be. We could also try and contact Washington Ship Model Society if we're interested in doing some more of a joint thing.
Yeah, we never really got with them on that. I mean, there was some kind of weak attempt at the Richmond show to kind of engage with them, but really didn't receive much response from them with the one or two times, maybe once I may have contacted them.
If that's what the club's interested in doing, we can try again. If that doesn't work, we strike out on our own. So shall we appoint a committee to look into possible partnerships, venues, time periods?
Sure, why not?
Any volunteers to work on that? Lead it?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I
will.
can participate.
All right, so your skipper and first mate have already volunteered. We'll accept help.
Well, I mean, I guess, is there an interest among the group?
Should be the next question.
You know, the thing here is it's sort of isolated, huh? Sitting in the south.
Well, I mean, if you look at them,
What else is there?
well, if you look at the Northeast Conference, I mean, they ranged from Philadelphia all the way to Boston.
That's what I mean, but there's a whole bunch of them.
Well, they're no closer than we are to Washington or Philadelphia.
Oh, Washington.
Yeah, we could hold something in Richmond to make the distance more equitable. We have a number of members in Richmond anyway.
So what's the next southern group?
Yeah, it's a long way away. There's a recently formed group in North Carolina, relatively far south, like Beaufort. Okay. Oh, hey, speaking of North Carolina, thanks for making the drive up. Good to see you again.
How many went to the Northeastern?
I went last year, I couldn't go this year.
I would like to consider that after Ryland's report. I have no idea what even happened there, but I think if we get a good idea of what it's like, we probably be in a better
Well,
position.
this was
nice.
the 38th year.
He's gonna do that today.
Well, give you some history on the Northeast Conference. I mean, as far as how it works and
Well, we've had exhibits. Well, we had the 50-year exhibit here.
But that
We
was
had-
that was our own exhibit. Kind of
Yeah,
in-house. Yeah.
right.
We had IPMS not too long ago at Hampton. And I.
Well, that was 8+ years ago.
That was fun. Yeah.
well, let me ask you this. Let's say we were to hold a conference here at the museum, which is a big draw. Would any of these guys up here that are online from up north, would they come down? Tom, you there?
I'm here. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I'm in my daughter's car right now, but so you might hear some background noise. Yeah, I joint clubs, as you folks said, we've been doing this for 39 years, actually 38. Next in April will be 39. It started out with just the Northeast clubs, and then later on the Philadelphia club joined in. It's a one-day event. I think where we lucked out quite a bit is for the last, I want to say 12, 13 years, we've met in the same place in New London, Connecticut. Before that, we met in the college. We met at in the CPO club, Chief Petty Officer Club in the Navy Yard. But now we locked into this one single place, and it works out good because it's a reasonable place, and frankly, we've found money for them because the times of year when we have it, we're their income basically. It's right on the Thames River in New London. We have 4 or 5 vendors who come up, generally the same vendors every year. A bookseller, a model seller, Chuck Pizarro is there, Train Troll is there. This time we had over 100 models. And so we have a model exhibit that goes on for the whole day. We have a buffet lunch. We have roundtables and that each club put on. And then we have a speaker in the afternoon after lunch. And then the Jersey Club sponsors the Jim Roberts Award, which we've been doing for the past 12 years. So it's a nice time. It's good for the Connecticut Club because it's always in their backyard. We thought about moving it around to different venues, come south, go north, et cetera, and we found that the legwork to establish a new venue every year was a problem. Got to be a real hassle. We rotate. Yeah, so we
I was going
rotate.
to ask you, would
Yeah.
something like that work here at the Mariners Museum? Say we were to host an event like that, do you think that people would come down from up north where there seems to be a lot of participation?
I would. Okay, I can't speak for. I would. I'm sure people in the Philadelphia Club would as well. I know I would. I know Bill Brown would. I think Mariners Museum is an excellent venue for that. So
I mean, that seems to be the biggest problem is trying to find a venue. I know the Washington Club, they tried hosting a conference about 5 or 6 years ago, a conference, and the breaking point, I think, was that the place that they had selected suddenly upped the fees, and it wasn't financially feasible for a one-day event.
Yeah, that's what happened with us because we used to do it in Marshall College in New London, and basically what happened was we were using a caterer that all of a sudden, they said that we had to go to this specific caterer. We had to have insurance on the venue, all that other stuff, and that just put the kibosh on the whole thing. So that's why we moved to a different place. If you could arrange something with Mariners Museum and they let you bring in your own caterer, that would, hey, that will work out really well.
Yeah, that's good thoughts. Thanks.
Joe got your comment. Joe's ready to come do.
Yep.
Joe, okay.
All right, so,
We can open discussions.
yeah,
Yeah.
so and I point out, there's 2 different possibilities. You guys are talking about a conference, which would be great. It involves roundtables or speakers, competitions, whatever. There's also simply exhibits, getting our models out there just simply for public viewing, which we've done once in the past at a library in Yorktown or York County somewhere, I think. And someone else, last time this came up, mentioned library space is up in Williamsburg occasionally. A lot of different libraries will occasionally do exhibits. They have space set up for that. So that would be, rather than a one-day event, you might set up for a week or 2, and it would be less active. We might have one member volunteer to be there to answer questions, or it might just be nobody. But it's a chance for us to, advertise, maybe get someone interested.
So I can just make one comment.
Yep.
I think what these guys doing up there, showing up the same place every year,
Mhm.
it's good.
Yep.
I don't think you should think about moving it.
Hey, Greg.
For a conference, I completely agree with you. For an exhibit, it doesn't matter so much because you're not paying for a venue. The library is inviting you in to do something public.
Greg, what we did at the Jersey Club is we've done several library exhibits,
Mhm.
and they go from a week to a month. And what we also do is like we'll sort of like one of the days we'll maybe have an opening reception where we'll have a how-to session where we do not for model builders, but for people who might be interested in the models and want to know how it's done. Sort of, sort of like a show. And then we leave models on site for up to 30 days. Depending on the venue. So that does work. It's and it's good advertisement. We've picked up one or two members that way, not a whole heck of a lot, but it's a good community service type of deal.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, an exhibit like that is something totally different than just a
Yeah.
1 or 2 day conference.
I was bringing that up as an alternate thing.
Ron,
And we don't have to limit it to one or the other. I mean, we can have a conference if we have the interest, you can find the venue, we have enough models and all that stuff. It doesn't keep us from 6 months later having an exhibit somewhere.
Ron, do you think the museum would be receptive to something like that?
Depends on timing. Facility
Oh, no,
is a big chunk of revenue.
Like the Huntington Room or something like that?
Huntington Room is where I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be competing with
Huntington Room
weddings,
has
right?
A lot of advantage. One is the space. The other is the annex room off to the side. So you can
Oh,
actually
no,
have
no, I
two
understand
things
that.
going on at the same
Just
time.
conceptually.
But yeah, I think at the right time of the year, I don't think it'd be a problem. And I don't think it'll be a problem leaving models in there for as much as a week or two, or probably not a month, but a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, a conference type
And
thing.
the
Like,
conference wouldn't be a problem.
I mean, that would be just a very short term thing.
Yeah. That
Well,
wouldn't be a problem at all.
They were not anxious to host another NRG conference because they said it was costing them money, I thought.
Well, this would have to
But-
be
There's a
self-funded.
shitload of
Yeah.
competition after that.
Okay,
May I say something?
of course.
May I say something? We had the same discussion about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was rejected because of the cost. It would cost about $18,000 to do all this.
I remember that quite well, because you had records of the time we had done it before, and we ran into problems. My take on that, Heinz, seriously, was that the museum did too much of the work that we should have been or could have been doing, and that wasn't necessarily our fault. But it took museum staff and time, thinking about hours, salary for hours. I think we could do it for a lot less than that, depending on how we work it. Plus the fact that we would get support, financial support from some quarters, for sure, for absolute sure. And Howard is much more community oriented than anybody before him. So looking out to do something for the community is right up his alley. I think
All right.
I think it really deserves some careful thought.
Also, I think some members would contribute.
That's what I'm saying. 2 at least.
Well,
You're talking about costs. Just so that we're clear, the Northeast Joint Clubs, everybody pays to go. So we run the things, a host club runs the venue every year. We rotate who runs the venue, and the cost covers the cost of the venue, the caterer, the whole thing. So, the goal is that the host club is, doesn't lose any money and might make a few bucks. So, if you're worried about cost, if you do it as a joint club, everybody pays to go. There are no freebies.
Something just occurred to me when Tom said that, and Heinz, we didn't have Tom Ruggiero, we didn't have Chuck Pissarro before to work with in developing these things.
Sure.
Now that we have that open net.
They've got the
network,
experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I
right.
think if we want to do it, we can do it. You can organize it with a museum, you have all the connection.
All in favor of Ron organizing?
I looked through Heinz files and it took me a day and a half just to get through it.
And I can financially contribute something. And if we want to do it, we can decide now we do it.
I may have
All right.
opened a can.
Well, no, we certainly have some options we can look into.
The thing to keep in mind is the old exhibition, that $18,000, was a national thing, so all the states.
Yeah.
This would be 2-3 clubs or whatever.
Yeah, we won't have the same advertising costs and, you know,
And Tom Rubiera said, this thing is not free, that 1 day thing, you go up there, you pay
Yep.
some money,
sure.
which we should do too.
Yep.
You know, not keep it for a week, just have a 1 day thing.
But we should not make any money.
No, we just need to cover a cost. I mean-
It can't be a fundraiser. It can't be a fund, it
No.
can't be a fundraiser. It could be
Not too
a
much.
recruitment technique to get people to come into modeling because all of us are aging. But yeah, I agree. It should be a break-even proposition.
Yeah, I was just thinking everyone's talking about the museum as if they're just going to be kind and loan us the space. I was presuming we'd have to pay for it, so right there could be a substantial
No,
cost.
I'm just saying that it should be free, just like theirs, you go up.
No.
there, you pay something.
Sure, I understand that. And I'm advocating it because of the things like I just mentioned. I mean, we're probably gonna have to pay for space and food and whatever.
May I say something else? We organized, I think 20 years ago, I don't know exactly, a national.
2005.
Yeah, this model competition with buses, we chartered buses.
Ladies'
We had,
stores.
caterers, we had speakers. It was a 3-day event. And we did it. We can do that little bit too.
Yeah, that was 2005 NRG National Conference.
Every 5 years.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
we can get,
second Heinz's motion that we go ahead and start
Yeah.
planning it.
Yeah. So we certainly have some directions we can go and we will discuss it in more detail as time goes on.
Yeah, I'd just like to see us get more.
Yep.
More involved.
No.
Let's do something exciting again.
Why,
That's me.
And both things,
Go to Austin, go skiing, Heinz.
both options are appealing to me, conferences and exhibits. So if anyone has more details about libraries that tend to do exhibit-like spaces, please let us know. We'll look into all of those avenues. And I guess it'll be Gene and I leading it, but we'll gladly accept all of your input and help contributions
A couple things here,
for new business.
new business.
Yep.
Okay, the first thing I want to get taken care of is our charter club with the NRG is up for renewal.
Okay.
And one thing that I have to submit is $30 a year. And if you want the optional insurance, that's $100. That's $1 million policy. It's a liability only policy in case we do something and somebody's injured and gets a lawsuit. I think that, Ron, you said that we're covered here at the museum. So we probably don't need that. But what I've got to send them a list of names of people who are NRG members. And I've got Mike Amicone, Gene Berger, Bill Brown, Dave Chilmo, John Cork, me, myself, Lee Martin, Kevin Ray, Tom Ruggiero, Tom Saunders, Henry Shapiro, Hines,
No, yeah,
Henry and I.
I thought that.
Hines, are you?
Yeah, yes, I remember.
You're a member. Anybody else? Okay, Dennis?
Does it need to be a complete list? Or are they just looking for a minimum number?
Well, they just said I got to send them a roster.
Okay. Because you might need to send out an email for people who aren't here,
Right.
asking them to reply if they're an NRG member or not.
Dennis, okay, so I got Dennis. Anybody else here that? Okay. I'll put your name there anyway. Okay, anybody else? Okay. So I'll get that off. And Model Con, Joshua, he was saying that that was the second most attended event on the New Jersey this year. The only other one was, I think, a beer fest. So.
Hard to beat beer. I mean, you know.
So I think he said next year time they'll serve beer, so. But he said that it's already been scheduled for next year, I think for the first Saturday in August, but.
All right,
So
very good.
that'll be the third one that they built, and the second one on in New Jersey. And the last thing I got is IPMS Richmond is scheduled for the last weekend in February. There are no longer any sponsorships of trophy packages. So that is something that, you know, is a cost saving to us, but at the same time, I'm wondering, do we get tables like we did, you know? So that's something I need to find out, and I plan on attending one of their meetings.
What was that date again, please?
It's the last Saturday in February. Yeah, but they are only going to be in one hall this year. So if you want to have a table to sell, you definitely need to go on their website, and they have a page set up for registering for tables. And that way you can, you know, because once they said the tables sell out, they will not be adding another room, anything like that. I think it's just it got too big the last event. And it's even with the help they get from other clubs, it was, I think for them, it's getting hard to manage. So it was and it'll probably be well attended since they didn't have one last year. So that's all I've got.
Okay.
But it's still going to be a competition, right?
Yes.
Just,
Yeah.
They're just doing away, how are they just doing away with the sponsorship?
Well, it used to be that, like, you know, we sponsored the best maritime.
No, I understand that. But who's going to pay for the awards? The awards?
They are going to pay for it themselves, the registrations.
Really?
Yes. Now I don't know why they're doing
Maybe
that.
the registrations go up.
Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is, but I think they said that the trophies for the individual classes never really had who was sponsored. They just as first, second, or third place.
Yeah. So they just didn't like all the bling on it, and different names.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, unless they've got maybe somebody will come in like Tamaya and sponsor all the trophy packages or something.
I don't know.
They got a reason. I don't attend their meetings to know.
Okay.
But it should be a good show coming up, and that's February. It'll be here before you know it. So, and that is a juried, a judged competition. That's it.
All right, anything else before we move on? Yep, Ron?
There's no heading for renew business, but this is renew business. Chuck Massaro is back in the cordage business with Siren. He's not able to make the linen cotton line he was making before because he lost his linen supplier. But what he's putting out now is poly cotton. It looks great. He's out of stock. He ran out immediately when he reopened. So, but anyway, Siren is back on in the cordage.
Yeah, he had a great display up at the show. Very good. Yeah, he was running cords and twisting them up.
He's also doing CNC milled blocks, which look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Got to bring them.
Any other new business? All right, show and tell time. Anyone want to go first? Sean?
Yes, all right, so this is,
If you want to bring it up, we can put the camera on it, or you don't have to.
perfectly comfortable.
Okay, all right.
So this is the continuing progress from a US brig Siren depicting her in the Turkish War. So from the last time, I think if I remember correctly, on the last time I had finished putting the tunnels in all of the planking. I've since then now have painted the black, the red bulwarks on the inside. I managed after about 15 attempts, I did manage to get the maple to finally bend to fit the curvature of the stern. I also did up some molding for the stern as well. I've also put in the beginnings of deck planking. I'm going to hold off on the rest of it until I build some of the deck fittings, because I want to get in and around the hatch covers and the riding bits, all of that. I'll cut the decking in around that. I put in water scuppers. There's 5 on each side. I put those in the brass tube. I originally had black in them, and knowing from the couple conferences, I think Roland was the one who had mentioned he was having issues. So I followed all of the advice given from that meeting, and I got some really good results, except for when I put it in, I had to sand it to the contour of the hull, and of course that took away all the blacking from the front surface. So now I'm going to figure out how to blacken it from while it's in the model, because I tried doing it outside the model. I could never get it to quite line up with the contour of the hull. So I'm going to go back and figure out how to do that. But, that's where I'm at. So my next progress, hopefully, start building some of the deck fittings, and I started working on a jig to make the copper plates. So I'll probably bring that in. That's really where I'm at with it.
All right, is there anything else at that table? Anyone else bring something for show and tell? All right. I saw
Yeah, I brought mine.
Stuart first. Oh, they're up here.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I brought it in that I was gonna have the largest one on the table. It's nothing special. I just brought it in because I had it here anyway.
Nice, that's as close as we can get.
Okay, well, you can see it's got.
Hold it up. There you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
resolution on that camera.
not so bad. I don't know.
Oh, well, there we go. That's what we have.
At any rate, I just brought it in because that's what I'm working on down in Stockholm. And I had to take it home today, so I figured, well, might as well put it here, let you see it, and take it home. Do most of the work here, nothing special, but
It's not the easiest little boat to build.
it's not easy, no, and the scale on it is kind of tough. It won't compete with what you did.
Oh, no. You go back where I'm at.
At least it's easy to carry around.
Yes.
We can help you.
All right, anyone else?
I have a question for Stuart,
Okay.
because I'm new to the wooden boat building.
Mhm.
Did you wrap it around the planks around the mold like that?
No, I've been.
Like, learn more about that.
Still,
Yes, it is. Which I'm learning.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right, I brought mine in.
Open for.
Oh, is there someone online? You guys can go next. So this really hasn't changed. But I brought it in more as a prop, not to show progress. So I'm not going into a full how-to on spiling planks. So it's not really a presentation level description. So those of you who have done it before know that you put in a plank that's wide enough that you can't bend it on the edge. So when it's on the model, it's curved, but when you lay it out flat, you have a very straight reference line. And you figure out where on the model you want the top and bottom of each plank to be. There's marks on here that you probably can't see. And you mark how far it is from that straight edge, the top and bottom of the plank. And you have to mark the direction, like, the frame will not be perpendicular to this plank in each place. At one point it might be 90 degrees, another part would be 85, 80, 75, kind of splays out. When you flatten out your reference thing, you draw lines in those different directions and then measure along those lines where the top and bottom of the plank is. Now you've got points through which you can draw the curve. So you've got your plank in the unfolded, and then when you put it back on the model, it'll be just right. When you've got those points marked out on your paper, you have to be able to put a nice smooth line through them. So if you've got nothing else other than a French curve from Office Max, you might be able to make do with it. When I was a naval architecture student long ago, the last time I did, well, I've never done this professionally. My career in shipbuilding is not involved drawing lines, but naval architecture 101, we had to do a big lines drawing, fill up a long table. And I don't mind telling you, I got best marks in the class. I got A++ on my drawing. So to do that, you can use, I brought in just a sample. These are various shapes of ship's curves. And John Cheever's probably done a better description of this before. Again, I'm glossing over it. So if you're using curves like this, you almost never find one curve that's going to go through all of those points. So the rule of thumb that I was taught was that when you switch from one curve to the next, you have to go those at least 3 points in a row. So if I have point, where was I? Oh, so I might have this covering 6 points. The last 3, when I switch to a different curve, have to go through those last 3 points to make sure that it's an even transition. Otherwise, you might get kind of another way. What's a lot easier is to use a spline, curved piece of wood or plastic. But they're usually done on bigger drawings and bigger, thicker things. And this is why I asked you to bring this in. When you have that thick piece of wood or plastic that you're bending, you have to be able to keep it from unbending. You hold something to hold it in place. So traditionally you use that, which is called a spline duct or a drafting duct. And it's got a little point on it here that you put on top of your wooden or plastic spline to hold it in place. The size of the drawings I do, that's pretty much overkill. Plus, they are now really hard to find. If you can find them, they're horribly expensive. So I looked into like making your own, and all the instructions that I found were about melting lead, which I didn't really want to get into. Or there are also some low melting point metals, but then you'd have to buy a bunch of stuff. It's like, how can I do this cheaper? That's the great thing about our auction is you buy all kinds of stuff. You buy the thing you want, and you get a bunch of other crap with it. So I bought a box of metal once, and I had a bunch of stuff I could use. 8-inch or smaller rod or strip or whatever. But at one point, I also got some 1/8-inch and even thicker brass plate and a 1 3/16 steel rod that was about 12 inches. What the hell am I going to do with that? So it's just been sitting there for forever. And I said, well, that would add some heft if I could figure out a way to make a duck out of that. So if that's a duck, then these must be ugly ducklings. Because it's really ugly. But I managed to hack that bar into 6 different pieces, and I've got the copper plate and the brass plate and the copper rod. And I thought, I've seen a lot of these ducks, the traditional ones where the tip has been broken off. And I thought, well, if that's ever a problem, I want to be able to replace the tip. So instead of soldering the tip on, I tried threading it. Well, I did, but as I alluded to in the newsletter to thread it, I managed to break the tap on the first one. So I just unsoldered the brass, the copper bit, and threw that away and started over. So anyway, where there's a will, there's a way, and even if you get crap at an auction, you might find a use for it one day. I've got pieces and parts to make 4 more of those. Everything's cut up but not yet assembled. Well, the other thing that I got at the last auction was a much larger micro torch. I used to have a little one, it was maybe 4 inches long. Couldn't generate a whole lot of heat. This thing's not a big, settling, you're not going to do a whole lot with it, but it's a hell of a lot beefier than what I had before. So I was able to use that to solder the steel parts onto the brass. It still took, a long time to heat it up. I'd tinned the bottom of each steel rod, which means just soldering that part, and then just getting some melted solder on there, and then flip it over and then heat it up until it the base plate and that are both hot enough to melt it, and then it just kind of sits in. So after you're sitting there for 5 minutes with the torch, it's kind of very satisfying when it finally just melts and settles in. Anyway, that's that. So now I get to try using a spline. The reason I did this is I was having a hard time. Obviously, I'm very out of practice. I was having a hard time getting a smooth curve with the spline or the chips curves. It was just too tedious. Couldn't find one. Like I said, I couldn't find one curve to go through all the points. I'm trying to find 2 and making sure that it was consistent all the way through. I said this would be a lot easier if I could use a spline, but I don't have any spline weights. John was kind enough to loan me some once before, but I don't want to keep running to John every time I need one. So now I'll have my series of ugly ducklings. Yep.
If anybody wants ship first, occasionally you can still get them through Amazon. Really, it's a hit and miss.
Yeah, because I've looked there before. It's
Yeah.
hit and miss, like you said, huh?
Had you considered Bondo?
Bondo for joining them? No, I wanted to do it this way because I just I was gonna, if I couldn't get it to work, I was just gonna try 2-part epoxy or something, but I was having fun melting stuff. How about online? Any show and tells out there?
Hands up.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, when's the next auction?
We usually do it every March, but because of COVID, we didn't do it last March. We did it just this last August. In the past, we've always managed to get enough stuff to do it once a year, but that's never guaranteed. And I don't think we'll see what happens. If we get all of a sudden a flood of stuff comes in by next March, we might hold it in March again. We might have to wait until the next March after that, like 2023.
Well, everyone's been healthy lately too.
Yeah.
We had too much at this last auction.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're just giving stuff away to get it out.
Yep. You're absolutely right. But right now we've got nothing, and well, like I said, so the point is we have to wait for there to be the stuff to auction.
In some ways, that's good.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
Yeah. So a lot of it's come from people outside the club, where someone's passed away and they want to find a good home for dad's modeling stuff or whatever. So it's kind of bittersweet when we get it.
But there's also stuff we bought at boxes at the last auction. You get it home, and say, already got that. So that could
Comes home with-
Yep. Yep. And the same books have shown up many times. So yeah, and in the past, guests have been welcome. So, if you happen to have been with us last August, you would have been invited as well. But
I'm sure there were leftover books. Where are they now?
recycling thing.
I've got 3 or 4 tubs of books.
Oh, so the other thing we,
Take a look at them. Those are stuff.
Yeah, I think John started this, the July meeting was the first time. We're gonna start bringing in some of the things that don't get competitively bid on. You know, you might get one or two people interested. Instead of waiting and taking up the auction time, we'll just put them on a table in the back. Kind of first come, first serve, or silent auction, write down your bid and whoever has the highest bid at the end of the meeting gets it. I don't know, we'll do something along those lines. Just so that we don't accumulate too much stuff that few people want for the auction. So if you come to a meeting, you might find some things showing up here like that. So. Anyway, the short answer to your question is as soon as we have enough stuff.
Thanks.
Somebody online?
Oh, yeah. Any show and tells online?
Yeah,
I have
one.
Yep. This is the one. Okay, you're right. All right, you're up.
Oh, yeah. That's
perfect. Camera picks up really.
You working on something there, Mort?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to go or you want me to wait?
No. You're good. As soon as you're ready.
Okay, I'm building the Caldecraft Victory. And I chose it because of the scale and the fact that most of the upper gun deck from the bow through the bulkheads for the beef from the bow through the bulkheads for the captain's, masters, and secretaries' quarters were included within the kit, but they were covered, which so I exposed it and supplemented them. I replaced the deck planking with maple. I only planked the port side of the quarter deck and forecastle, and I left the starboard side exposed as in a dockyard model. I added a door to the beakhead roundhouse on the starboard side. I added the admiral's sleeping quarters with his hanging cot, his washstand, and a couple of trunks with a checkered floor. I also added his dining cabin with side tables and a liquor box and a little bit of his day cabin. On the quarter deck, I furnished the master's cabin with a hanging cot over the cannon, a desk, a chair, and a couple of trunks. I added cartridge boxes and sand buckets at each cannon. The hatches, I used Siren's hatches, Chuck Pizarro's hatches. They were better. For the captain, I was able to partially provide him with the checkered floor, a dining cabin with the table chairs, side tables, also a liquor box. And for his day cabin, I built a desk, a dresser, a chair, a chest of drawers. It was possible by only I exposed it by only planking about 40% of the poop deck.
Hey,
Again,
Mort.
with an Admiralty model.
Mort.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, are you just describing it to us, or did you think you were sharing pictures or something on your screen?
I have a build log
Okay, gotcha.
on Model Ship World. And finally for the quarter galleries, I added entrance doors, hanging lanterns, and the seats of ease. I have the ship, you can see it, but I think a build log would be better, but I'll be happy to show it to you if you want to see it. Where I am now.
Just at least a quick glance would be good.
Okay, hold on just a second. Well, when I put flags, I made flags and I put them in the signal boxes. I don't know, can you see it?
That's terrific.
All right. that quick glance will prompt a few more people to go check out your build log, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's almost 3 years in right now, and it's probably another 3 years. The thing is a monster. It's just big.
How long is the model?
I think it's 1,400 centimeters long. It's about 4 feet without the bowsprit.
What scale?
I'm sorry, 172. It's the biggest scale. That's another reason I chose it, because it's easier to work with in detail with a bigger scale.
Are you gonna rig it?
Yes, it's from, yeah, I intend to. It's from one of my son's offices, and he wants it rigged. So that's why it's probably another 3 years to rig it. Because I'm not finished with the hull yet. But yeah, it's gonna be about 3 more years, I think. Hopefully 2.5. Because she's big. She's a monster.
It's looking great.
Thank you.
All right, so everyone go to the Ship Model World. Is that where your build log is?
Yeah, Model Ship World,
Yep, Model
yes.
Ship World, yep. Okay, cool.
John raised his hand. Enjoy the traffic.
All right.
I have one.
Okay, I'm pulling you up now, John.
You probably can't see this real well, but I'm just starting on the Essex, or the Ajax, excuse me, which is a British warship, 1765. So I'm just working on the first planking and working on the gun deck right now. It's actually a model I bought several years ago at one of the auctions. It's a Euro model, Italian, from 1977, I think. So it's going to be quite a challenge. There's probably 13 or 14 sheets of plans, but nearly zero in terms of instructions. So it's the translation isn't that big a deal, you know, with Google and so forth, but trying to figure out next steps is a challenge. So it'll be a while.
All right.
Looks good.
I guess I'll go next. Well, I guess the first one I can show is little 1/700 scale of HMS Rodney that I built. I haven't painted yet. So that was just a fun project to do. And then I built the Bounty launch from Model Shipways, 1/16 scale there. And so there we go. I sort of simplified the paint on the hull and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where I'm at with that. And then I've got 2 projects I'm working on right now. One of them is the Gunboat Philadelphia Model Shipways. And this is where I'm at with that project. Let me see here. Take some of these cannons off to show you the interior. Let me see. One of the little 124 scale cannons that I've used some pewter black on that to blacken that. And then here's the interior so far. I decided to paint it like a gray because that's one of the paints that came with the kit. And I've seen on pictures of the actual thing that it's kind of like a dark gray. So figured that would look good. And then I just used the golden honey stain that came with it. And I'd like to thank Mr. Joe Lorenzo for sending me some pictures of the Gunboat Philadelphia, which has been a great resource and will be as I continue to build that project. He sent me some pictures of the real or the real replica up in New York. And then the other project is one that I started a couple weeks ago, which is going to take me a long time. It's Vasa from Artesania Latina. And I've just started planking sort of along the water line on both sides. So yeah, it's like 30 inches long or so. And I think the finished product will be like 42 or 43 inches long. So, this is going to be the ship that's famous that sank on its sea trials, basically up in Stockholm, and with the loss of much of her crew. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I've got the frame put together and started planking and all that stuff, and yeah.
It will need a new house.
Yeah,
What was that?
you're gonna need a bigger house.
Yeah, I am. That's right. I have nowhere to put any of that stuff once it's built. So
Did you do a Vasa, Heinz?
Yes.
Yep, that's what I thought. On our website, you probably find at least one Vasa model. Okay, any other show and tells out there? Switch to gallery view so I can see any hands going up. So many people online today.
Do you have Joseph's email address?
No, I asked him to send
Okay.
an email, go using the
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make sure to get that to you.
info@hrsms.org, and I'll pass it along to you. All right, I guess if that's the end of show and tell, we'll take a break, and then Rylan can set up for his presentation.
Take 5.
Somebody showed up for lunch. Teach you how to stuff bag.
Yeah. See one of those
Pause
Doing
before.
anything this afternoon for a half hour or so?
Just one second.